How you gonna do that?
MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As
I know Rangers do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 104. Al, myself, Chris in the building tonight. And Chris, I've been getting a lot of texts. People want to know what happened in the match last week. So why don't you give them the results of what happened in the big golf outing on
Come brothers.
Well, on that note, me and you were victorious in our pairing, and it was a team effort. 95% of it was you, but that 5% that I put in there, it contributed, helped out. It got us over the hump. What hole was that with that big putt I had?
Yeah, you had a clutch 3 for 2 on hole number 15.
Yeah,
to put us 2 up, and we held on and closed them out 2-1. Al, I know you went on a golf trip this weekend. Any good stories before we get into tonight's episode?
Yeah, there's a couple good stories. I don't want to implicate or incriminate anybody. We had a guy who lost his cell phone on the Saturday there, and he gets back to the house and decides he wants to go looking for it at midnight. So we went and he may or may not have drove his truck onto the course at midnight to find that phone.
Damn.
But he did find it.
How did he find it?
So the one dude that was back at the houses with us, he had logged into the Find My iPhone app, and so he was pressing the button over and over, because if you lose your iPhone and you press the button, it makes your phone emits a noise even if it's in vibrate mode.
Really?
So he was out there in his truck with a couple other the and all of a sudden we're on speakerphone. All of a sudden you just hear the noise through speakerphone, and they just went nuts. So they were able to find it, which was incredible. Technology is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Well, good for him. I'm glad he was able to find his phone. Losing your phone, your wallet, like that stuff these days it's such an anxiety driven activity when you're looking for it.
He was totally unbothered by it.
I wouldn't know. I don't lose stuff. You got to talk to my wife about that. She loses everything all the time. But Al, if you want to, I see you want to have a love sack challenge here, bro. I got the love sack for you, cousin.
You like this?
Yeah, everybody's in a new spot. I'm about to go in a new spot tonight.
Seltzer, you got one.
Yeah, but unfortunately, occupancy is full. If you can see it over there.
Yeah. Dude, check this out.
Seltzer just fell, dude.
I tripped over the power cord. Rug bird.
Dude, check out this octagon I got for the girls. Oh,
when you step inside the
it's
octagon,
like the art dungeon down here.
When you step inside the octagon, there are no rules.
We're off to a flying start tonight, boys.
Literally.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Segment 1 tonight. We mentioned last week that the NBA offseason was bound to start on Sunday. The Sixers have made their big splash. Listen, we can't give them any crap for not making the big move, as they have signed Paul George. He officially inks his contract with the Sixers last night. 4 years, $212 million. George averaged 23 points per game last year for the Clippers on 47% shooting, 41 from 3, 91 from the line. He'll join up with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and a handful of others to form the new quote-unquote Big Three.
Adam Bona
as well, getting to the draft as well. Listen, we've talked about this potential deal. It wasn't a huge shock. We've talked about it a few times. But now that it's here, I want you guys to kind of give me your feeling on it, because I know we texted throughout the weekend, and there's a lot of mixed feelings between all of us. So let's start with Chris. I know you were on the fence. Why don't you let us know where you are now?
Well, I think since the market has done what it's done and it's dried up a lot in terms of other names, I mean, the plan, it seems like from all intents and purposes, was always for Daryl Morey, was always to get Paul George. I mean, even going back to last year and who knows how far even before that, when they banked on this summer to be able to spend money, he was the big fish that they had identified based on the best fit for this team with how it was constructed then and now. And so they got their guy. Now, is it our guy? We'll see. I mean, if Paul George from last year to play 74 games shows up as far as being his availability, then that's great. If the Paul George from a few years back that, has been an all-star multiple times in his career shows up next year, has a chip on his shoulder, then that'd be great. But if the Paul George that shows up that after another second round exit says something to the effect of, well, we did the best we could, but there's more important things out there to do and take care of, then it's not going to be a good 4 years for Paul George in this city because this is not LA. But I will say this, a positive for him is he did choose to leave. Not only did he leave the Clippers, but he left his hometown. He came across the country, 3,000 miles to move himself and his folks to play with this team to get that bag. So I will give him credit for that. Now, of course, it was for the bag, but still, we're not going to facts get in the way of a good story. Also, last thing I'm going to say, as big as that bag was, it was still $103 million short of Jason Tatum's. Just imagine that.
Yeah,
that's true. Al, what do you think?
Look, like any good Philly fan, right? I've come to over the last 12 hours or so accept my fate and allow myself to flip-flop somewhat on some of my feelings about getting Paul George. I still don't like Paul George. But when he's the obvious crown jewel of a free agent market, when you have all this money to spend, you have to sign him. Where are we at if we don't sign him right now? We have no one. I just don't we have no one. I mean, it's like, I remember one year, my birthday is at the end of July, and I remember one year right around my birthday when I was a kid, the hot toy on the market at the time was those little stupid Tamagotchi robot pets.
Sure.
And I didn't want one of those things, like deep down, but it was the hot toy. So I had to ask for it, and I got it. And I had to pretend I was happy with it.
Oh, you were a sheep.
Dude, it didn't last forever. It only lasted about 6 months, but I had fun with it for 6 months. Look, where I'm at right now is obviously Paul George is an upgrade. We should have him for 4 years if he opts into that player option in the 4th year. So we should finally have some kind of a core, trio that we can build around and we could potentially, hopefully, win a title with. What I'm trying to, and Adam, I think you and I are more in this boat than Chris is. What I'm trying to detach myself from is the thought that all roads have to lead to a title because of the tank, which is something that I've struggled with as a Sixers fan since the tank. I've thought that if we don't win a title, it's all wasted years, basically, because we lost on purpose. So I'm doing my best right now to tell myself, okay, we're going to be regular season warriors again. We're going to be flirting with a 1 seed, 2 seed. And then it comes down to playoff time, and we'll see what happens then. Even though Paul George is not the player in the playoffs that he is in the regular season either. All his numbers dip when you look at his playoff numbers. And you guys are nodding. I'm sure you guys have the numbers in front of you. I'm sure one of you guys are going to say them, so I won't. But for now, I'll take it at face value, and I'll be happy for the organization. They got the guy who was the big fish.
All right. Let me counter one point, just because I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've also flip-flopped. I've gone from not liking it to liking it to not liking it to liking it, and back and forth. The premise that, well, he was the only guy out there, so that's the guy we had to spend on. The last time we had that thought process was when we signed Tobias Harris to a long-term contract. So I don't think we can use that as an excuse anymore because, again, you remember the Tobias situation. Jimmy Butler had left us, and we had just given up a ton of assets for Tobias, and it was, well, we have to sign Tobias at this point. We have no other choice. So we all know how that worked itself out. So I don't necessarily think I can buy that thought process. With that said, I mean, if you're building a third piece to this Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid combo, you want a 6'9" wing who can shoot the three, who can theoretically defend and be long and be that third scorer. Like, he's the prototype of all of those things. He is the guy that you would build in a lab to go with these two guys. So the fit there, I think, is pretty seamless. My concern, Al, is, or something that Chris mentioned, is again, he leaves the Clippers to come east for the bag of money. I don't know if he's a Philly guy. We know that there was a lot of things going on in 2020 in the bubble, but we know that he basically had I don't want to say an anxiety attack or something along the lines where he needed to get out of the bubble as soon as he could. And I don't know what life was like there, but I worry about when the Philly fans get hard on this guy. Again, he's played basketball in Indiana, he's played basketball in Oklahoma City, and he's played for the LA Clippers. No, none of those fan bases are anything compared to us. Are we going to break this guy down? And is he going to kind of go into a shell, which I could see happening with his type of personality? I don't know if he's a Philly guy. Is there a chance?
His hometown too. On top of that, so
what is it?
I said, and I was going to say LA is his hometown also, so it's a little bit. They'd always be easier on him anyway for your hometown.
Is he 34 years old, going to cash in the check? This is my last contract. I can mail it in at this point. I just can see that from him. I hope that's not the case. I do think, Al, you mentioned, I think regular season-wise, I think we're going to be really good. You're going to have these three guys, as long as they're healthy, which is obviously a huge if. George was healthy last year, but it was really the first year in the last 4 that he'd really been healthy. But it's going to come down to the playoffs. And listen, we can talk Paul George all we want. I don't want to change this. It's going to come down to if just Joel Embiid healthy. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter how Paul George plays, this and that. He's an upgrade from Tobias Harris. He's going to be better in the playoffs than Tobias Harris was. He could be that supplement. But again, he's had struggles in that window. But I think it'll be different because, again, he's just going to be the number 3. So you don't need it every night from him in the playoffs. You need, can you give me 3 really good games in the playoffs as opposed to, hey, can you give me 5? I think so. I think we're okay there. It's just going to be, can these guys stay healthy? And can Paul George handle Philadelphia? Those are my 2 biggest questions when it comes to this signing, and I don't have the answer for him at this point in time.
Yeah, Seltzer, I agree with you 1,000%. Those two questions that you have are the same that I have. But I will say, we forget though, last year, this past year, he obviously had some flashes of really good things in that series against Dallas, but also really bad things. But before that, he had that nickname Playoff P. And I'm looking at his stats in the playoffs, and he had, with the exception of 2020, which again was the bubble, he's averaged at least 20. I'm looking through his career here, going back to when he was actually started to be ascend to a star around 2014. He's averaging series 24 a game, 20 a game, 24, 27, 28, 25, 29. That bubble year, like I said, was tough. That one series he had 19, and then he went back up to 22, 24, 29, 29, and then this past year in April he averaged 19 and a half in that series. So Daryl Morey was looking for a guy that who's going to perform in the postseason. Historically, the guy more often than not has played well in the playoffs, but he has had times when he disappeared in certain games. And of course, those are always magnified, and rightfully so. So again, if that does happen with us, how does he respond? Does he come back and realize, all right, I got to do better? The team gets it more involved, and he gets back on the wagon, so to speak, and outperforms those other bad games? Or does he say, you know what, I just don't have it right now, give it to Joel and Tyrese, and be comfortable with being a third fiddle in that situation?
Outside of the position that they play, I feel like we had the same exact questions, and it's talking about talent, as we did when we had James Harden, right? The question was, can James Harden show up in playoff games, in big games, and be consistent? Can he be that third piece? Now, again, I know Harden's on the ball. Paul George is going to be playing off the ball.
Right.
But I feel like talent-wise, we're borderline all-star at this point in their career. You know, they're top 25, 30-ish type talent. I feel like it's the same type of situation that we had here, perhaps just a little better fit. Now, the only other difference is it's not the same Tyrese Maxey that we had 2 years ago. So
Right.
James Harden was the second piece when really Paul George is going to be the third piece.
Paul George is one thing I've looked at too is we're hearing about his age all this time about him being 34 years old. But if you split his career right down the middle and you take the first 7 seasons versus the last 7 seasons, all his numbers are way up in the last 7 seasons. But not just like he obviously, he averaged more minutes, so his points are going to be up. All those numbers, but all of his efficiency numbers are up. All of his shooting numbers are up. So he's more confident, I feel like, as a scorer in the league now in his age 33 and going on age 34 season than he ever has been before. I think he's going to be able to fit into that role that we've been looking to fill, that shooter role, that spot up corner 3 guy role pretty nicely and pretty easily. I don't see it. I don't see there being a problem as far as chemistry. I think that fit is gonna work. I'm more concerned with what you open up with: playoff time, injuries, pressure. They lose a game 1 in the opening round, something along those lines. What all of a sudden happens then?
Yeah, and again, like the fit is there, the skill set is there. It's just when you see these stats, and now you just said a great one about how the last 7 years of his career has been better than the first 7 and this and that, and I just said the playoff points per game that he's had in his career, and those are all good things. But then I go back and I think about, like, for instance, he's one of those load management guys. And it didn't help that he was around King load management, Kawhi Leonard, for so many years. And I remember, and I can't get out of my head that time a couple of seasons back when it was the start of the season and there was rumblings that some players were having an issue with how Paul and Kawhi were being treated. And I remember him saying in the interview, I think it was after a game, and he said, like, well, those guys haven't put in the work that me and Kawhi have put in. So until they get to that, they really can't say anything. And that rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm sure it rubbed those players the wrong way, because he's basically saying, like, I'm entitled, capital entitled, to do what I want to do at this point in my career, and putting that over team. And that part, that always pissed me off then, and it still pisses me off and worries me now. And so, like I said earlier, what Paul George up here are we getting? We know what's going to be on the court. What Paul George up here are we getting? Are we going to get a guy that's going to be a load management king? Because we already have one of the court jesters of load management on our team as it is, right? So is that going to make an issue with our team as far as him not being available by choice at times? Is that going to affect Joel and how Joel sees things? Maybe I should sit more games on my own based on my previous years and my previous history. Maybe even Tyrese, other guys on the, like, so what is this going to do psychologically and mentally for some of these guys with a player of his ilk with that specific kind of mindset? So who's going to be influencing who? Is he coming here to say, this is your team, Joel and Tyrese, I'm the missing piece, let's do this? Or is he going to say, I'm Paul George, I'm here now, you guys need me as much as I need you, but here's my demands, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen there with that? What's the dynamic there going to be?
And it's, I mean, in theory, this is the last ride for Paul. So he has to figure out how much it means to him. And I mean, he's publicly stated it's not about necessarily winning a championship at this point. So, I mean, take that comment as a grain of salt. It could be taken out of context. But there's probably no contract for him after age 38. And if there is, then it's been a hell of a contract for the Sixers because he's played himself into, another contract at that point in time.
And let's be honest, this is the last ride for Joel too, as a Sixer. What does he think is going to happen, beyond this Paul George contract? Like, we're not going to be able to keep building championship teams around him, and especially once he's 33 and 34 years old, what's his body going to look like? But Chris, you brought up a great point, which was the relationship between Paul George and Joel Embiid and how that's going to figure into things. Because one thing we've all said on this podcast is the thing that Joel Embiid is missing is that leadership and that ability to bring dogs out of people in the locker room that might not be dogs. And I don't think Paul George is a guy that's going to be able to do that. So if now all of a sudden you have Joel Embiid, who is a known pussycat at times on the floor, you have a guy like Tyrese who goes missing at times. You have a guy like Kelly Oubre who we question.
Playoffs, you're talking about?
Yes, playoffs. Okay. Yes, we have a guy like Kelly Oubre who sometimes we question, is he all there? And now we have the TikTok king and Jared. We have a kid in McCain who knows what he's bringing to the table as far as his mentality. And in all seriousness, who's going to be that guy? Is Paul George going to be the guy that's going to settle Embiid down and they're going to turn things around and say, hey, look, this is our last ride? Or is it going to be, hey, let's F around and, let's create TikToks and let's build our online brand and let's be, what's the word I'm looking for? Trolls. Let's be trolls and just have our fun and collect our bags.
And you know what, Al? And that's the one thing that I hate when I hear, and I understand where people are coming from with it, but I hate when people say, as long as we're healthy and come playoff time, because we've seen, like, you could be sitting a guy like Joel or Paul or whoever else, whether it's they were injured and then they had to miss time, or they were being load managed and they had to miss time, and you screw around and you get to a 5 seed or a 6 seed or a 7 seed. And now you're having to work your way and climb the hill upwards, right? And so, yeah, you want them to be healthy at the end of the season, but at what cost? Like, you might qualify. Like, in other words, I hope he doesn't come in here and say those same things to the team. As long as we're together by the end of the year, guys, we're gonna be good, because we don't know what position that's going to be. We've seen what the Knicks have done. We've seen what Boston's done. We've seen, and there's always a team that comes out of the woodwork every year. Maybe it's Orlando this coming year. Maybe it's Cleveland. Maybe it's Indiana again. Somebody's going to come up and take a big step forward, and we don't want to be complacent thinking we are just a better team, so we'll be able to get through those guys, because this year we just saw that's not always the case. We had the best player on paper in that series against the Knicks. It did not work out well still for us. We still came out short. Now, I believe that series would have been vastly different if it was flipped, if we were the 2 and they were the 7. I believe if we literally, if we made 2 or 3 more shots in the series, we would have still been able to say we could have won that series. That series was that close.
Chris, forget that series for a second. The point I think you're trying to make is that the hill in the East has gotten a lot harder to climb in the last 2 to 3 years.
Correct. And that's exactly my point. So when you say just get us to the playoffs and we'll figure it out from there being healthy, that's not a guarantee that you're just going to show up and win these games. You still got to put in the effort to put in the equity, the success equity in the regular season. First of all, every team is different every year. So you got to know and have that feeling as a collective unit in a group, what it feels like to win together. So that's a big thing. And we've seen in that season in 2020 21 when we got when we had Horford and Richardson and those guys, and we just never gel, we never click because we didn't play enough games with the group the way we wanted to do. And we've seen it from other teams in the past, how important chemistry is. So winning together is important as much as being healthy. And I hope that they just understand that and don't go into it like the fans do, thinking, well, as long as we're healthy by the postseason, we'll be fine. Because you don't know that.
I don't think Joel has that mentality, and maybe George will rub off, but I do think it's a good transition to, obviously we added George, but we mentioned last week, there's a boatload of open roster spots, and they've made a few moves here, and I want to just touch on some of the supplemental moves. They signed Andre Drummond, which I think is a huge move to build on some of that load management where, maybe it's not a game-by-game load management, but maybe it's Joel only has to play 32 minutes a night as opposed to playing 36 minutes a night because you have a guy in Andre Drummond who is a proven commodity at this point in the league. They also had Eric Gordon, who, give or take, he's a veteran, 35 years old at this point, can shoot it. Not sure how much he will give you, but I will say I think you're getting 75% of the production of Buddy Hield at probably 25% of the cost at a minimum.
And not against the cap, right? It doesn't count against the cap.
Correct, because it's a veterans minimum, so
Right.
you're okay there. They bring back Kelly Oubre on a 2-year, $8 million per year contract to potentially be the fourth starter on this team. We don't really know who the fifth starter is at this point, so that's something we could talk about a little bit as well. And am I missing anybody here that they brought in? I think that's it at this point in time.
That's it. Are you ready for Kate Scott to yell "Splash Gordon"?
Don't
Right?
put that in her head.
Are you ready for it?
I'm sure she's a listener to the show, so that happens.
What up?
Yeah, if it does,
Al, you better get that trademark. I want to say also one last thing on Paul. If we've talked about how we're all on the fence here with him, and we see good and we see bad. Here's his way to get into my definitive good graces to the point where I might even buy a jersey. All right. If I tell my kids, my students, sometimes be careful, especially the 8th graders, be careful, because sometimes the guys and the girls who you think are your friends aren't always your friends. And what's happened with Paul and Harden, and if you think about it, if you get deep into it, Paul just got James' bag.
Yeah, he did.
All right. Now, if he shows up with number 1, 2 on top of that and takes his number and his bag, I might have to run. That's pretty savage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, Harden obviously signs a 2 years, $70 million deal with the Clippers here. He never gets his bag that he expected to get anyway. I do want to touch on some of the holes, though. I mentioned earlier, we really only have 4 starters at this point in time. You could say the whole – I mean, Paul, the nice thing about having Paul is he has such flexibility in what positions he can play, whether it's the 2, the 3. He can probably even play the 4 for a certain amount of time, depending on, who you're playing. So there are some holes there. They lost Anthony Melton today. He goes to the Warriors for $12 million on a 1-year deal. Obviously, Nico Batum leaves. He goes back to the Clippers on a really cheap deal. Didn't want to come back to Philadelphia with family and stuff out on the West Coast. 2 pretty big losses, but are there any targets out there for you guys for who's left and what you see coming for this lineup? Because there are still roster holes when you look at it for sure.
Well, one guy that hasn't done anything yet. I think is Lowry being linked to Houston now? I want to say. Do you think there's any chance Kyle Lowry comes back for the backup guard position?
I mean, it would make a ton of sense.
Yeah,
I mean, he's definitely he's been talked about as, I mean, for all intents and purposes, a shoe-in to be brought back here as late as like this weekend. And oddly enough, we haven't heard that Woj bomb yet. So I don't know what that's about. Because he's a veteran, and we talk about the need for dogs. And now he's an old dog, but he's still a dog, and he's going to be able to be a positive influence, I think, in that locker room. So I would definitely take him.
Yeah, he had fit in from day one when he came here this past season. Look, I don't know, man. I know Gary Trent's a name that one of you threw out last week. Tyus Jones is the guy that I thought they were looking at last season heading into the trade deadline. I don't know that either of these 2 guys are starters next to Maxey. I don't know that they're going to have a really, I think that the point guard position, if you're saying that Maxey is the 2, I think that the one of the guard positions is going to be the weak spot on this starting 5. It has to be.
I just think that we had such a problem rebounding the basketball last year, and if we go into this season with another guard, Maxey, George, and Oubre, I'm not sure that that problem's going to rear its head again. I think they need a power forward who can rebound the ball a little bit, and I don't know who that is. I really don't. There's just not a lot of options out there.
And yeah, no,
unless I don't think they'll have the money for him, but I don't know what Miles Bridges is going for. He has a ton of baggage, obviously, with the domestic abuse stuff. He would be a really good fit basketball-wise, but there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that.
So the baggage being the perception of the fan base and the organization. His legal issues with that have already been squared away.
Correct.
But the issues with, similar to how it was when we signed Michael Vick years ago when the Eagles brought Vick in, and how there was people that were protesting at the NovaCare complex and all that kind of stuff. They quickly forgot once Michael Vick showed up and played.
Correct.
right, so
But this is also worse. Not everybody is.
Oh, sure. Oh, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
And he's also not the quarterback, so it's
Right.
also
It's totally different, and you're 100% right. But I'm just saying, like, that's the main thing the organization is thinking about with a guy like that. The talent
Correct.
obviously is there. It's more about, do I want to introduce this guy to my fan base and the culture of my organization, or the culture I'm trying to instill, which I don't know what culture the Sixers have. But if they feel that way, they might be hesitant. But guys, I mentioned it to you before earlier today, and I said how it's like, it's like the NWO with the third guy, the mysterious third man. Who's the third man? Who's going to be the four on this team? And you said already, Seltzer, like, it's running dry out there. Let me give you a list of names that are available still, but there's not a lot of money out there to be had. Kyle's one of them. We already talked about Lowry, Gordon Hayward, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, Evan Fournier, Gary Trent, Seltzer's boy Markelle Fultz, Malik Beasley, Tyus Jones, Rocco, Doug McDermott.
That's the guy. That's the guy if he's healthy.
McDermott?
No, Covington.
He's not healthy.
Oh, Covington?
How do we know? What was his knee? Nobody ever told us what his injury was.
I don't know.
I can't
But
trust
that's
him.
a guy. We need a guy who's going to do the dirty work. That's what we need. We don't
Caleb
need more offense.
But here's
Caleb
the problem.
Martin is another guy we talked about before. Bridges, as you said. So there's guys out there who, like, would help. Alec Burks, one of my boys. There's guys out there, but there's so many dudes, and who can afford, with the new rules now, to bring, like, there's only a handful of teams that have any money left without doing sign and trades. And I'm wondering, is this going to be a historic year for, like, vet minimums?
Yeah, it is. That's
You can't bring
CBA
in
is going to make that. That's going to be the way it is now.
you can't bring in a total slouch either, because Chris was talking about this a little bit, with talking about how we can't coast in the regular season. Joel Embiid averages 54 games a year in the regular season. Paul George in the last 7 years only averages about 60. So you can't bring in a guy like Rocco. You can't bring, like, what's he going to give you, dude?
Who just missed like 50 games?
Yeah, I can't have that.
Again,
He played 29 games last season.
I don't want to even get into this, but I'll say it again because we talked about it in the playoffs last year. But you know who's the prime fit? Is like the Ben Simmons.
No, stop.
No, not now. The guy we thought he was going to be.
I know, but that meme has been popping up all over.
Yeah, no. We don't want that. We don't want
Can't
that.
do that.
We don't want that.
Listen, man, I'll tell you, Ben, it feels like the times when you were dating somebody and you broke up, and somehow you just both felt like you'd find your way back to each other again.
Joel's not having that, dude.
I don't think so either, but I don't know. Power forwards that are available via free agency. You could argue that Covington is probably the highest available as far as skill wise.
I think
It's
Covington's
not a lot of guys
fit
out
if he's
there.
healthy.
Right. And it's not a lot of guys. I mean, we're talking about Kyle Anderson, Torian Prince, Markieff Morris, which we don't, Precious,
My
Dario. There's not a lot of guys out there that could do what we need to do in that spot that's available.
We're looking for a starter.
Correct.
Which is
And
scary.
that's even big. That's even less of a pool to pick from as far as free agents go. I think this guy is going to be traded for.
He's going to have to.
And I don't know how they're going to make the numbers work out and crunch the figures for it. I don't know. Again, I'm still trying to learn all the ins and outs of the new apron rules and the luxury taxes and this and that. But if they went out and if they can't find a way to still trade for marketing, can they?
Does Daryl Morey have one more left in the clip? Is there a way?
They said today they're out on marketing. They said they're out on marketing.
Because I was going to say, I would imagine that the only way they would have been able to do that is if they did a sign and trade with Tobias going to Utah, but now he went to Detroit. So I feel like that I don't know how that could happen at this point in time. So I don't know who this brother's going to be, but
listen, right before we signed Paul George, Shams did tweet out that the Sixers' interest in PG had significantly waned.
No, that was Shams. That was Shams.
That's what I said.
Oh, I think you said Woods. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I said. So if they're throwing around, maybe they're trying to drive that price down. If you want something, don't go out there saying I want it. I got to have it.
There's also some rumors that Shams and FanDuel may be in a little
I wouldn't even say that's
conspiracy together.
rumors. That's not even rumors, dude. That's just Twitter bros.
Is what it is.
Well, what does Vin D say about this?
Well, I'll tell you in a second now. Wait, no, now hang on.
He nailed it. I heard he was at the meeting.
He did. But before we jump into segment 2, just guys, you have any thoughts on the Sixers draft? We did think they were going to trade the picks. They didn't. They take Jared McCain out of Duke, who, if you are a big person on TikTok, you've probably already been familiar with him. And then Adam Bona out of UCLA in the second round, a long athletic, projected to be backup center at some point in time. Obviously, will probably be third string this year. McCain, more known for his shooting out of Duke as a freshman. You guys have any input on the thoughts on the draft picks?
I just think it's hilarious that I think I said it to you guys in the group text. We are such a beaten down fan base, the Sixers fans, and Philly is such a passionate fan base. And we just got over one viral sensation in Ben Simmons, and they go ahead and they draft a kid that puts out these TikToks, man, that I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. Sassy, these sassy, flamboyant. Like not that there's anything wrong. With that out there, but the fans don't want to see that if you then don't put out anything on the court. So he better produce if he's going to be producing TikToks.
Al, I'll be honest with you. Even if he is producing on the court, I don't want to see focus on your craft. Focus on he's a kid. He's young and dumb, and I get all that. We've all been there. My fear with McCain is that he wants to be at Duke with all that stuff going on. I was like, I wonder if this kid wants to really just be a celebrity. And now that he's a celebrity by inherently by being in the NBA, is he trying to become a brand? And that's my fear that I have with this kid. He's already done 3 of them.
Yeah.
At the complex and everything. Dude, we don't care.
No, but if he's truly smart, he understands that this, so to speak, brand ends if he does not perform on the court. Because now he's in the NBA. Now he's a little a fish in a big pond. He's not at Cameron Indoor anymore, where he's the best player there. And I'm not going to call him dumb because he had signed contracts totaling $1.2 million in NIL.
Oh, no, I'm saying dumb up as far as
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Immature.
Not with the book stuff and all, because obviously he went to Duke. He's not a dumb kid.
No, but I mean, he's young.
Exactly, the maturity. Yeah. But they say he's a dog on the court. I've seen him a few times last year, but I haven't studied the kid. But the scouting reports on him are he plays tough, both sides of the ball. He can stroke it, and he does a lot of things that Philly's going to love him for. And all I see him is just, the whole doing all of this and that.
It's not even arms, though. It's hips. It's a lot of hips.
It's a lot of hips. And hips don't lie, Al, as you know.
Dude,
I don't really want to know if the hips are lying with my man. But it's just a little bit off for me. Also, I hope that Paul George is the only Paul we have on our team this year.
I think it's leaning that way. I think Paul Reed, with Drummond and Bona on the roster, I don't think there's a spot for Paul. And we mentioned what they have cap space wise. Getting rid of Paul will help that figure go up a little bit as well.
Also, with a trade, I guess if they put him in a deal with a couple picks, but I don't know who's knocking down the door. I guess attaching a few firsts with him would maybe get you somebody but they still got to be around that 10 or so million. They can't be more than that.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact figures, but yeah, you're probably right in that ballpark.
One more question for you with this segment. I saw, obviously not for us, but Levine and Lonzo Ball, both of those guys, the Bulls are apparently, allegedly, desperate to get rid of and are willing to attach draft capital to them to get rid of them. My question to you is, I know we're not Bulls fans, but what the hell are they doing saying that at the same breath as giving Patrick Williams $90 million?
Yeah,
that guy is hot garbage.
They're a completely mismanaged organization, dude. And they have been ever since 1999 whatever year it was Jordan left.
And Al, you've talked about it before, and I've done the same thing a lot with listening to like certain cities, sports talk or reading their team pages, and the Bulls folks are like beyond them. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, they thought they got rid of dude, and then they woke up and they said, not only do they have him, they got him for 5 more years at $90 million.
Well, I think here is where they get stuck, and this is the problem with the way they've run this organization. And I picked them to be one of the failures last year. Is they're finally realizing that they need to rebuild this team with DeRozan and Levine and Vucevic that has repeatedly gotten them the 9-10 seed and not into the playoffs. So now they're telling their fans, "Oh, we need to rebuild." But you have this guy in Patrick Williams, who, correct me if I'm wrong, was a top 5 pick in the draft.
Yes. I think he was 4th.
So you're telling your fans that we need to rebuild, but then you're letting a guy that you invested that much in just walk. And I don't think that he wants to do that for a guy who's, he's not good. I don't think he's good, but he's still 22 or 23 years old and is a 6'9" wing. So they got stuck because they just sat in this turmoil for 4 or 5 years doing nothing, and they were forced to make that move. And let's be real. In 5 years, $18 million is not going to be that much anyway, or whatever he ended up getting. So
making nothing
more than what they should give it to him at that point. I'll tell you that. I never believed in that kid. His skill
I
set.
don't think he's good either.
They tried to transform him into something into this league that he could be. That's that stretch guy that's like long and 6'9" or whatever. I don't think that he'll ever be that kind of guy that they can stretch the floor with consistently.
I agree. If anything, he's a plus defender, and that's about all he brings to the table. All right, let's jump into segment 2 tonight. We have some Phillies talk rather than go on the national board here. The Phillies go 4-3 this week. They take 2 out of 3 from the Tigers, and they salvage a split with the Marlins, a really, really ugly series. But the bigger news is the injury bug continues to bite this team. They lose Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper in the same game. Schwarber to a groin injury, Harper to a hamstring. They also lose Spencer Turnbull earlier in the week to a shoulder injury that's pretty serious, as well as your boy Taijuan Walker on the DL as well. They join JT, who's still out until at least the All-Star break with a knee injury. They've obviously also battled other injuries earlier this year, hamstring injuries to Trey Turner and Brandon Marsh. Through all that, they continue to have the best record in baseball. But we've asked this question a few times. We'll start specifically with Bryce and Schwarber. How concerned are you guys with these injuries? We'll start with Al.
I'm still not very concerned. Look, at the bottom line is this. When you look at what they've done this season, they have not lost more than 2 games in a row. They've only done that once this season. So they've still been able. I know that this recent string of injuries is exactly that. It's recent. But I'm still not concerned because they're still finding ways to win. Guess boy, Mr. Lovable himself crawls from the ashes. Him and Mr. Round of Applause himself, standing ovation. Trey Turner win us the game just the other night, last night, Sunday night. They're still finding ways to win. They still have the best pitching staff in baseball, the lowest ERA in baseball, the second lowest whip in baseball, or whip, however you choose to say it. I still have a lot of faith in this team. I don't have a concern. What's the cushion still in the NL East? 7.5, 8.5?
I think it's 8. I'll take that.
I mean, look, guys, we are still not on cruise control. That's not the right way to put it. But I still don't have any concerns because they haven't shown me a reason to have a concern, quite frankly. Now, I know one of you guys might bring up Rangers' last 2 outings. Honestly, that doesn't even concern me. We knew that he wasn't going to pitch perfect baseball for an entire season. Now, look, happens a few more times. He drops a couple more games, then maybe talks to me again. But we're coming off the heels of a Christopher Sanchez complete game shutout. Like, someone keeps stepping up for this team. So, no, I am not. My concern level is a 1 or a 2.
Correct. And even the other day with Nola's start, even though we ended up losing that game, he was great for 90% of that outing he had. He just can't score runs in that game. So, like you said, Al, the pitching has been the calling card through all these injuries, and I expect it to continue. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 for Schwarber, I'm like, as far as concerned, I'm at a 1, and that's just because you can't give a 0. So, he's already said he's expecting to come back. I think it's the Dodger series, the last one before the before the break. So he's going to be back before we know it. I would imagine Harper, they haven't. I don't think they've said yet any specific expected date or anything like that for him to come back onto the field. But even just getting Schwarber back is going to be a big deal for us to get our offense back going and get that pop back in the lineup, because we damn sure, like you said, Nick and Trey came up with big hits this weekend, but there's not really a lot of guys out there in that lineup that other pitchers fear going deep on them without those three in that lineup, without Realmuto and Bryce and Schwarber. So the pop helps when they come back, but I think we're good. I'm not too worried about it as far as getting caught by Atlanta or anything. I know we got a big series with them coming up soon. I think this week, isn't it?
It's this weekend.
That's what we call a segue into business, Mr. Seltzer.
There you go. I just want to add one thing. I do have a little bit of concern about the Bryce Harper injury, not because I think it's overly serious, but I just worry about hamstrings. Specifically, if you watch Turner run the last 2 weeks since he's been back, he's probably at 60, 70%. He is not legging it out right now.
And Seltzer, I'm so happy you brought that up, because that gets my blood boiling every time I watch it. If I get it that he's a missed bat, but if he can't beat Trey Turner, he should not be coming back, because you're still in like his risk of re-injury is still higher than it would be normally if he was 100% back in the field. He's clearly not 100%. I mean, he almost got caught trying to score from third base the other night on a play normally 9 times out of 10 that outfielder's not even going to throw it home because it's Trey Turner in third. He's not going to catch him, and he almost did.
Yeah.
So like he's clearly basically jogging around the bases, and if you're doing that and you're not able to be yourself, I got a problem with letting a guy like that come back.
Part of it could be mental. Like, I don't know if it's mental or physical. He's worried about blowing that tire.
They need to talk to him. If he's concerned about it, then and it's a mental thing, they need to talk to him, because he can't be out there lollygagging.
And his defense has been terrible, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the hamstring as well. We know obviously last year he wasn't the best shortstop in the world at all, but his defense has not been good since he came back as well.
I wouldn't be surprised next year if they make the move and they put him at second.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk. I hate moving a Gold Glove second baseman off of there, but it's definitely something they're going to have to discuss at some point in this contract, because he can't play.
That's what I'm saying.
For 13 years or whatever it is.
Right, and I think Stott's a Gold Glove caliber player wherever you put him. I mean, he's a natural shortstop, so I'm not concerned with that aspect of it. But eventually, like you said, they're going to have that conversation, because he can't keep booting balls at that spot like that.
And maybe my point is, maybe I'm taking the other side of this, Chris, where if Trey is, 85%, but he's just kind of going, I don't want to say going through the motions, not playing it cautious, not turning it up unless he really, really has to at this point in time. I don't think Bryce Harper has that in him. So I think they need to be cautious, because, again, just the re-injury of hamstrings it's high. I wish it was a bruised knee or the same thing JT had, because another – it doesn't take much to blow another one out relatively quickly. And I guess we're lucky he's playing first base, but I don't think Bryce has that gear down that Trey Turner's showing.
Well, and also the difference is Bryce's game isn't predicated on speed. Trey's game is predicated on speed. And so when you tell him to go out there and play and he's only 70% and he's jogging and can't fully sprint, that's a big part of his game that he can't give to this team. Bryce is never going to – Bryce is quick. I wouldn't say he's necessarily fast.
He's aggressive.
He's aggressive and he's quick. But if he was jogging like Trey is, you'd understand it more, because that's not why he's out there. He's out there to hit balls in the gap. He's out there to hit home runs. He's out there to play Gold Glove caliber first base at this point, from what we've seen with him. He's not out there to sprint around bases. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, but playing with that balls out mentality is what makes him special. It's what made Chase Utley special.
Sure.
And the last thing I'll add to just kind of back down a little bit off of my point is from everything that we've heard is that Bryce Harper's hamstring injury is more along the lines of Brandon Marsh's as opposed to Trey Turner's as far as severity goes. So if that's the case, I mean, Marsh has been, seemingly full blast since he came back and only missed about 2 weeks of action. So the hope is that that's the case. And, I would hold Bryce out through the All-Star break if I were the Phillies just to be cautious.
I think it was.
And hopefully he's ready on the back end of that.
I would say I think it was funny how obviously when it first happened we were all concerned, and then he talks and he's like, "Man, I've never had this before, and it hurts and this and that." And then they were like, "Bro, it's like a grade 1. You'll be okay."
Yeah. But how about this for a good fact? Assuming Bryce does not play in the All-Star game, which is not a given at this point in time, he'll be in Philadelphia for 6 seasons and will have never played an All-Star game as a Philadelphia Philly.
Until this year.
Huh?
Until you said Bryce?
Bryce has never played in the All-Star game as a Philadelphia Philly.
Right, until this year. But do you think he plays in the game this year?
I don't think so. I think the Phillies talk him out of it.
Do you think? I mean, we're looking at potentially. I mean, we said the over/under was 4.5, right?
We're way off because the voting.
Right, the voting is gonna because Bohm is in, Turner might get in, Real Muto might even get in, and then you got Brandon Marsh might get in.
Right,
I saw him on the list.
And the pitchers have made a huge push. Sanchez is making a push at this point in time.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be way over that 4.5. And it's easier for the other teams to digest when you have guys like Bryce and JT who may get voted in but are not playing because that still opens up spots for other teams.
And we misspoke. Well, at least I misspoke earlier a few weeks ago, and I said about how Thompson's if Thompson's the manager, he'll obviously make sure the Phillies get. But I was thinking it was like other sports where the best team sends the manager to be the manager or the coach or whatever of that team. But with baseball, it's the coach or the manager, I should say, of the team that went to the World Series.
Right. Makes sense.
So it's actually the Arizona man, Lavulo is the manager for the National League. So he may or may not feel the same about certain Phillies as far as getting them in the game.
Gotcha.
Well, he should love our pitchers.
Yeah,
he's like, is Kimbrel over there still?
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. The one thing I before we kind of close this out, the last part about the Phillies I want to mention, we've talked about some of the moves that baseball has made to help the game better. We've talked specifically about the pitch clock. There's been a couple other the getting rid of or adding the DH to the National League, all been huge successes. The one gigantic failure that the Major League Baseball has had is this new balanced schedule that they've put out where you play every team in baseball once, because the fact that we are going to play the Atlanta Braves now in the beginning of July for the second time this year is a disgrace. Like we don't need to play the Oakland A's or the Minnesota Twins every single year. It's just, we should be still playing. I think we should play the American League East every year and then rotate between the American League West and the American League Central and take those 5 extra series and put them in your division again. So instead of playing the Braves only 9 times this year, whatever it is, play them 12. You should be only playing your division 9 times. It sucks.
Yeah, it's our first time going to Atlanta. It's July.
First time going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Baseball is not like other sports. You don't have to play every team. And the other thing is like, you might have the argument of, well, if we don't play such and such team, we don't get to see such and such player. But like, isn't it every other year it mixes up anyway?
Yeah, well, right now they changed it 2 years ago, so now you play every team every year.
No, I know that, but I'm saying prior to that, you were still guaranteed to play the the AL West every couple of years anyway.
Yeah, every few years they would come in, or you would go there. So yeah, you would eventually see these guys.
But to play devil's advocate, though, I will say it's better than seeing the Nationals 20 times.
18, it was 18 before. 18 was too much, but 9 is not enough. They need to find a way to. It needs to be either between 12 and 15 times, I would say.
Yeah,
4 series, 2 series here, 2 series there. That should be what your division is. Any thoughts going into this Brave series? How important it is for this team? For me, I would say as long as they don't get swept, they'll be fine. You get swept, and then the lead's down to 5 or 4, depending on what happens this first series. And it feels like a lot of the work that you put in for most of the year kind of has become null and void at a 4-game lead. But as long as they win a game down there, you're fine.
Well, I think they're going to dodge Wheeler too. The Braves would.
So who's pitching? It's Mercado tomorrow.
And then but for the I think for the Brave series, I think it's like I want to say it's Ranger, Nola, and is it Sanchez or
No, it's got to be Mercado, right?
Yeah, you're right.
so they would either way they would dodge Wheeler. So, but we also at that point we get Wheeler for the Dodgers.
Right.
So that's also going to be good. Listen, it's about to go down now. Like
Yeah,
we're playing we're about to play some baseball.
Yeah, because you said we get Atlanta and LA going into the All-Star break, and then at the end of July you have the Yankees and the Guardians have the second best record in baseball. So the schedule is going to get action packed, and luckily you get a lot of those games at home. So head on down to the ballpark. Use code 3 Keystone on your SeatGeek.
Yeah, I was just looking at it the other day to try to get to that Dodger series. But I know we're going to put a bow on this. Adam, you hit the nail on the head. We can't get swept by Atlanta. I think those 6 games against Atlanta and LA, if we were to go like 1-5, that's the disaster. And it wouldn't even matter what else we did against Chicago, Oakland, and Pittsburgh. I think with these 15 games, if we can manage 10-5 or even 9-6, but a lot of those 9 wins would have to be against Atlanta and LA, like a 4-2 stretch, I'd be happy. But I'm looking at the goal should be 10-5 here. Again, best team in baseball, man. We're the best team in the NL. If you want to say that we're not the best team in baseball because of the Yankees, it's fine. But we're the best team in the NL. So you got to go 10-5. You got to play like it.
Yeah, we got to definitely start showing it. And also, we lost that Orioles series, which is kind of. I mean, I know it's the middle of June at the time when we played them and stuff, but that was a big chance to show the league that we are who we are saying we are, but we got plenty of time now to make up for that. Like we said, the Yankees, the Dodgers, all the Guardians, all these guys that are coming up, these teams are coming up soon. So we got to be up for the task.
And Chris, I don't disagree with you, but I think that mindset obviously goes both ways. And I think it probably to Baltimore means a little bit more because of their youth.
Oh, for sure.
That series, that particular series.
And they were at home too.
Yeah.
All right, so less than a lot more Phillies talk to come as the schedule gets a little bit tougher. We're jumping to segment 3. We've talked about the last few weeks, how good of weeks a golf trip is for myself. I had one this week. But this week you got a short week of work because except for the teacher boys who are off all summer.
Yeah, we just chilling, man.
Because we have the 4th of July on Thursday, so hopefully you get Thursday and Friday from your workplace. But Chris has put together some would you rathers that are 4th of July based, and I'm curious to see what you have to throw at us, Chris.
Yeah, so I mean, I just put this together. It's about a list of around 10 of these questions that I have, and majority of them are geared towards a theme of the Independence Day holiday we got coming up on Thursday, and just not only that, but just like what it means for not just the 4th of July, but also just summer in general. But specifically, like I said, some of these are specific to the 4th. No rhyme or reason. We're just going to kind of riff here. But the first one I have is, would you rather, and some of these are sillier than others. All right. Would you rather enter in light of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest and the beef that's going on, no pun intended, or pun intended, I don't know, maybe, with Joey Chestnut? Would you rather enter a hot dog eating contest or a wing eating contest? Which do you think you'd actually be able to contribute to potentially a winning cause the most? Hot dogs or wings?
Yes.
I always say, like, I got a huge appetite. I would compete, and then I see these guys do what they do, and there's no way I'd be able to do that.
But okay, forget competing against those. Nobody can compete against those. What if you were competing against us? What would you rather eat in that situation?
I'm going wings 10 times out of 10. No doubt.
Hot dogs.
Oh no, I'm going wings. I can mess up some wings. And there's a secret to the flats. If you're trying to eat them fast, you take the ends and you push them in, and then it slides right off the bone. So you can just motor those things down. Dude.
See, that's the thing with the wings, though, is like there's always controversy with how much meat is left on them, how much you got to clean them. So for me, I'm just right. Give me a clean bite where I can just snap that thing off. If it's a good, if it's a nice glizzy. I don't want to get involved with the bones. That's why I'm going hot dogs.
You know what, Seltzer? I agree with you, actually. I would do the hot dog contest because I'll be honest, I don't like to work for my food. So there's a reason probably why I'm not a big wing eater, which you just mentioned. I'm not a big crab eater, having to crack them open and get the meat out, this and that. The oysters, I don't really do all that stuff. You got to give me the food where I can just scoop it up or pick it up with my hand and just go to town, not have to worry about any shrapnel or anything getting in my teeth.
Now,
Flying
listen,
somewhere, you know what I'm saying? So I would go with the hot dogs.
I do love wings. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But I could not agree with you more on the crabs. Crab to me it's okay. It's not worth the work.
Listen, so Sarah's the opposite. Sarah loves her some crabs.
Megan too.
Okay? And she went with a friend of hers one time, and I tagged along years ago, and they went to a place in Maryland. Like, this was a legit hole in the wall, right by the beach, crab spot. And you walked in, they had the paper towel roll on the table, they had the brown bag cover on the table, and they had the mallet.
Yep.
And I'm like, bro, if I got to use a mallet, I can't I'm not interested.
And you got the bushel blue claws guest.
Yeah, I can't. I just never been. Now I like crab, like the meat,
right?
But
good
to crack them open and do this and that, I just can't get into it.
And then you crack and you get the littlest piece of meat.
Dude, the whole part of eating a crab that makes it great is that experience. Crabs are in my top 5, and I don't just want like a jar of meat. Like I need to have the crab right there from the shell, sucking the claw. Crawfish is another favorite of mine. Sunflower seeds. I think I like to work for my food.
We might have found something out about it.
I'm gonna see. Al, have you ever had? You have to have had the sweet and spicy David's.
Yeah, I had them like years ago when they first came out, and I think I killed them for myself. I had so many of them when
they're
they
the
first
best.
came out.
It's the best seed in the game.
You got to get the taco seeds, but they're not by David's; they're by Biggs.
I heard that there's a new Smackin' is the new seed. You got to.
Not impressed.
Really, my buddy said they were good.
No, not flavorful enough.
Okay.
Because their whole thing is it's low sodium, and I want give me the sodium.
Give me the salt.
Yeah, give me the electrolytes.
All right, so you're going wings. I'm going hot dogs.
Yeah, but wait, I know we have to move on. What are you doing with all that bread? That's a lot of bread.
Sure, I understand. I just don't want to mess with the bone.
Oh.
Well, so what they do is a lot of times in the contest, they take the dog out and then they dip the bread in the water to make it softer and easier to digest.
Yeah, but what Adam was saying was like it's just the three of us going at it. It's not me.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah. Chestnut and Eric Badlands Booker going at it. You know what I mean?
But the Badlands Booker. By the way, I'm hearing that they're doing a Kobayashi Chestnut potential pay-per-view match.
Yeah,
they are on Netflix.
Oh, it's Netflix now.
Yes.
I was going to say, who'd be paying for that?
Yeah,
I'll watch it on Netflix. I'll check it out.
It's probably going to air right after Monday Night Raw. Once Raw goes to Netflix.
Hey, I'll be there for that.
Hopefully we're off Mondays by then because guests won't show up.
How about we'll stay with the culinaries? A little bit of for our southern fans. Would you rather have back fat or pig feet? Now, if you don't know what back fat is, all right. So, quick little story. When I was in Georgia years ago, and I was around my dad's house, and at his supermarket, I saw quickly a package that said, fat back. I'm sorry, not back fat, fat back. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So, evidently, it is the fat of the pig on the back part of it's, I guess the way they butcher it, it's literally the fat of the backside of the pig, and it's a delicacy, especially in the South. Pig feet. Some people put pig feet in like collard greens and things like that. Let it cook in with the greens, the flavors. So I was curious because I know none of us do any of those three things, any of those two things. So if you had to go down there, check it out to our Southern brothers and sisters. Which one would you be most likely to try out?
So I think you may be mistaken because when I make pork shoulder and when I use it to make like fajitas or tacos or anything like that, or like a nice Cuban sandwich or something, the fat on the shoulder, I'll chop that off and I put that in like the all the herbs and spices and the blend of the spices, and then I just throw those bad boys right on the frying pan on high heat. until they get like crispy. And those are also a Southern delicacy, a Southern snack called cracklins.
Okay.
And I learned that from a Kentucky Derby documentary that I watched, where one of the horse's owners was pissed because his daughter was hiding the cracklins from him because he was all out of shape and he was diabetic and he had to get on the healthier food. So I made a few cracklins. Cracklins are awesome. So I will take the fat back 10 times out of 10.
I would
fat back
probably,
too.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. So officially, I was looking it up while we were talking about it. It's the slab of hard pork fat from the back of the pig.
Right.
Now, in certain black households, pig feet is not out of the question. So I've tasted pig feet, especially in greens, and not really for me personally. But the back fat, like that I would give that a shot. I'm big on any fat stuff, any skin on
Yeah.
I'm in on that. So I would try that out.
All right,
Now, Al, being from Overbrook, have you ever had chitlins?
I had chitlins once. I believe I had chitlins at your mother, I believe, made them one time when I was over.
She might have, but I was nowhere to be found for that. So good luck if that happened. Good luck if you ate that, because that's one of the most grossest. I don't know how people eat that. Seltzer, have you ever had chitlins in your life?
I can't say I have, Chris.
So they're pronounced, I guess, chitterlings, technically.
Yeah.
But, and what is it like? It's like the intestine lining of the pig, or it's something like that. But when you cook it, it smells legit like you're in a Wawa bathroom.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what it is. I don't remember what it tasted like. I remember your mom made some banging greens that day. That's what I remember.
She did. Yeah, she was throwing down with the greens. She would throw down with the greens. But I had pig feet in it. Oh, my mom. All right, so we're gonna get away from food for a second. So we all have children now at this point, young kids. If you had to have the youngest of our children, so Al, you have 3 kids. So we're gonna put Penny in there with Hayden, Simone, and Sienna, and you got all 4 of them for the night. Would you rather bring them to a fireworks show or a concert?
Fireworks show. I'll open it up. I had some experience actually. So we took Hayden to the Phillies game. It was actually Liam's birthday his birthday's July 4th, but he had a birthday party Friday night at the Phillies game. Had like
Liam,
40
contributor to the show.
Well, what'd you say?
I said Liam, a contributor to the show.
Sure. Had 40 or so people in the guest tickets. We were way up top, but it was fireworks night. And we brought the little headphones for Hayden. And the plan was to leave before the fireworks started. Honestly, the plan was probably to leave in like the 7th inning, depending on how long he'd last. But we got lucky. It was a Sanchez complete game. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes. He was doing really well, laughing, smiling, eating the whole shebang. But we did take him. So we'll still get out of here before the fireworks start. We get to the parking lot. The fireworks are going off, and put the headphones on him, let him look at them, and he was fascinated by them. I mean, you get the flashing and the lights, and that that attracts the kids and can divert their attention. I'm not sure a concert's going to do that for them. I don't think the music has the same, depending on who they're seeing, the same effect as the lights of the fireworks. So give me the fireworks.
I do just have one question, Chris, because I think this might alter Adam's answer. Am I there? Is it just me and the 4 of our kids?
Yes, you're by yourself with the kids.
Okay. So the fireworks show is going to be exponentially shorter than the concert.
Right.
True.
For that reason alone, you have to go fireworks show. But I could see concert if you're with more people because it's going to be indoors, so it's going to be cooler.
Maybe.
Right? Well, I'm assuming I'm choosing the concert now.
Yeah, you'd be going. Yeah, I mean,
fireworks.
But because of that, though, you might say, "Look, maybe you're going to do a grown folks show where it's not too crazy."
That's true. I could go Hall & Oates. I went to Hall & Oates in Atlantic City at the Borgata, and there was stands. Everybody was sitting for that show.
I saw them at the Man last summer.
Yeah,
good
probably
time.
For the last time because they're not going to.
Yeah, they're going through the outs.
But I'll wrap it up by saying with fireworks or outdoors, it's going to be hot because it's fireworks. So it's going to be hot. So if I could see why you would pick concert, but fireworks is only going to be a 20-minute show. I'm in and out in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that the booming of the fireworks though for my girls. I don't know. They're good around. They've been good around people because they just kind of get like overwhelmed in a good way where they're just like shy. So I think a concert they'd be okay, but the boom, like when I was a kid, I was freaked out by fireworks. I did not like the firework. I was not a fan. So if they're my blood and flesh, they might not. It might not be a fun. They might ruin it for everybody. My girls might ruin it. They might ruin it. All right. Would you rather work at a water park for the summer or a county fair?
The fair.
Yeah.
I'm all in. When I was a kid, my dream summer job was to be one of those guys on the Wildwood Boardwalk that just played one of those Carney games, dude. Had like the megaphone, be shouting at people when they're walking by. Yo, you buddy, show your I bet you don't got an arm, buddy. Come over here and try to knock these pins down. That's the easy one, the fair.
As somebody who frequented the water park when I was a kid, I was a big water park guy because I didn't love the beach. The lifeguard job when they're just sitting at the top of the slide and they're like, go.
Oh yeah.
That's a terrible job.
Yeah.
And then you have all the people who are in like the they go in down the rafts and then they flip themselves over every time they hit the pool. And
a lot of dopes at the water park.
Huh?
A lot of dopes at the water park.
Yeah, well, people are just trying to have a good time and
they want to do things they know they can't do physically, and they want to still try because for whatever reason, people think that water you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, the county fair you get, you can walk around and get a nice lemonade, a funnel cake, stuff like that. When you play the games, I think the county fair is the easy answer there.
Yeah, water park, your lives are on the line too here.
Yeah, no, I would agree. All right, you're by yourself. Would you rather ride on a 4th of July parade float by yourself or sing the national anthem at an event?
Well, do I have a couple libations in me?
Yeah, you got some libations.
All right. Well, I am not in any way shy about singing, although I contend I have the worst singing voice potentially in the world, but that does not stop me. I wouldn't mind the float either, though. Guess I've been in a hot air balloon before, and it wasn't really a big deal to me.
Dude, really?
Yeah. So I'll say that just to spare the audience that would potentially have to listen to me sing the national anthem.
So I want to same spot as Al. My voice and my singing voice is not one to be shared. So I will ride the parade. But let me tell you this: I couldn't be more anti-parade. I think parades suck. I don't understand.
You gotta go to a good parade though.
There's just people like just walking down the street. That's all it is.
Well, you go to the neighborhood parades, yeah, but if you go to like in Philly or New York or something, it's a little bit different.
Out on parades.
I will say this: it depends on what the parade is. So 4th of July and Thanksgiving are the only ones I would go to. The only one that's I've been to both. I've had a good time at both, but I can understand where you're coming from for different other parades.
Even the Thanksgiving parade, what do you want to see? Inflatables just down the street, the big turkeys?
Well, that's like you're in the moment. It's the holiday spirit. Santa's coming at the end of it.
Stupid.
You got the whole thing.
Dumb.
So you would hate it here, dude. We have a St. Patty's parade, Memorial Day, July, Halloween, and Christmas. Dude.
Delco loves parades. Delco is parades.
And Springfield only has one friggin' street. It's just the same street that all these parades go down.
Same people in it, just different outfits.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the next one here. Now, this one is a fun one. Back to food. Would you rather try a spicy watermelon or a barbecue flavored cake?
Oof. I'll try both.
I definitely want to try the spicy watermelon. That sounds like a margarita mix, like a spicy watermelon margarita. Sounds like it could be amazing. I make a watermelon tomato salad that is delicious. So I would imagine a spicy watermelon is not that bad.
Yeah, Al, we're on the same page for the most part today. Even though spicy food does not sit well with me, I have a taste for it. So I would imagine, you get a little juicy spice in you there with the biting into the watermelon, a little kick. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And plus the barbecue flavored cake would freak me out because they're not meant to be in the same world. Like, I mean, the spicy watermelon isn't really meant either, but it's a tang to the flavor versus like I feel like the barbecue would dominate the cake more than a spiciness kick would dominate the water. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
Al,
but
you-
I don't know if spicy. I guess spicy watermelon could be in the same thing.
like in other words, do you ever see those imposter cakes?
Yeah.
So like it's like a burger looking cake, but
Yeah.
or it's like a burger, but it's really a cake, whatever. That stuff freaks me out. Like I don't know how people do that, and it looks so fantastic and realistic. But I can't imagine going somewhere and no one tells you, and you bite into it, and it's like, what is like this freak?
Like
I went to the pizza. Remember the Pizza Hut seltzer on Ridge Ave
Yeah.
back in the day? So I went there one time in like '99. I'll never forget it. Went to the salad bar. Thought I was scooping up a bunch of chicken for my salad that I was getting with the pizza. It ended up being tofu. I spit it up because when I did it, it tastes like nothing, and it freaked me out. My brain cells is freaked out. So
That's a terrible feeling when you think you're biting into something and it's something completely different.
yeah, same with like when someone gives you the old, oh, take some water and it's vodka. That's a problem. Gotta stop
I
hanging
think you did that to Ludus one time.
out. May or may not have. All right, here's another one. Would you rather dress as Uncle Sam or the Statue of Liberty for the day, for the 4th of July? Which one would you rather dress as for the day? Wake up, you got to put the outfit on from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's who you are.
I'll go Uncle Sam. No, I feel like it would be a cooler temperature wise costume to be a part of. I'm looking it up now. Maybe not actually. Now that I'm looking it up.
Yeah, my black ass can't be Uncle Sam. Dog.
Yeah, I know. I knew that.
I couldn't do that. But you know,
I don't
the
know.
only thing is,
the Statue of Liberty is kind of corny though. Kind of corny.
and it takes a lot of time to prep for that outfit. The Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, the kicker is that Statue of Liberty, you have accessories that you have to hold.
Right. And
You
you got to
gotta
paint
hold-
yourself and all that kind of stuff.
Right. You got to hold the Encyclopedia Britannica and a torch.
Encyclopedia.
I'm out on that. I already rock a beard, so I'll rock the beard and a top hat, and we're good.
There you go.
So did you know I'm on Uncle Sam's Wikipedia page? Do you know where that was derived from?
Uncle Sam himself? No.
So it was this guy named Samuel Wilson, who was a meat packer from New York, who supplied rations to the American soldiers during the War of 1812.
So then what?
Hold on, I'm reading the rest. Hold on, let's see.
You said a meat packer, huh?
Yeah, we both said pause. What? So then why is he the one that wants people? I don't
know. There was a requirement at the time for contractors to stamp their name and where the rations came from onto the food where they were sending. Wilson's packages were labeled EAUS. When someone asked what that stood for, a coworker jokingly said Albert Anderson and Uncle Sam, referring to Wilson, though the U.S. actually stood for the United States.
Well, what about Albert Anderson? We don't have him anywhere.
He labeled his food and he put U.S. instead of, they just named him Uncle Sam.
All right, well, there you go.
There you go. The rest is history.
We're worldly gentlemen on this show.
Just a
learned
joke.
men.
Just a joke, not going awry, going famous. Just a joke on the opposite of a ride.
All right, how about this one? Would you rather on July 4th go without food or go without your cell phone?
My phone. I could be unplugged. I can't be without food. No way. No shot. I'm going to show up to that wing contest and not be able to eat.
Well, but the thing is though, like the phone, if you got things going on, you can't really be connecting the dots with the planning.
No, I'm a big, like, if I'm out somewhere, if Casey listens to this, she's going to be like, you're so full of shit. But if I'm out somewhere, like this golf trip this past weekend, I didn't look at my phone at all. Like in the cart, at the house, it was just like in my pocket, using it for GPS here and there on the course. And that was it. I'm a big, like, if I'm out somewhere guy, I don't touch my phone.
Boy, it would be, you know what? I fasted for 24 hours earlier this year. It was fantastic. But
we got to talk about that. I'm thinking of doing it.
So I did it on a whim. And I did it. The nice thing I did it from like 4:00 p.m. through 4:00 p.m. the next day. And I had a golf round scheduled for like 10:30. So I ate a big meal before 4, and I was able to just drink water the rest of the night. And then I woke up, and I only really had to get to my golf round. And then once I got to my golf round, it was 10:30 to 2:30. And at that point, you're in the clear. So I think you just got to time it right, unless you want to go to just a full regular day.
Well, two things here. Number one, were you miserable? Number two, how'd your body react to that?
No, I was fine. I mean, I gave myself enough water. The last hour and a half was tough. I was hungry. We came off the golf course, but I think I lost like 3 or 4 pounds, and my body was fine.
All right.
Yeah, so I do sometimes I'll do like it's like the 16-8 method or whatever. So you go 16 hours without eating, and then you do 8 hours with that's the only time you can eat is between whatever 8-hour day, 8 hours in your day, whether it's like noon to 8 or whatever the case may be, and then you don't eat, any other time. I quick before we go to the next question, I think I told you, Al, already. When I watched the Gary Player video from when he was at the McCall golf course in 2020, and you go on their website and they have it on there, and he's talking to kids, and he tells them, don't ever, he's like nutrition and stuff, which apparently he's a nutrition expert. And he's like, don't ever eat all of your meal. Always eat half of whatever you're eating, eat half of it. And if you feel heavy, just drink. Like I've gone 3 days before with just drinking water and fruit juice. And I'm like, I don't know if you should be telling like 12-year-old kids that, because they don't know what they'll take it a whole different perspective. So
are you guys fast eaters?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, same. That's so bad for you. I think it's a habit that most people don't realize they have.
Yeah,
I have it, and I'm aware of it, and I can't do anything about it.
So my doctor said that you should eat, when you eat something or chew it, you should take at least 20 bites.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And you should put your utensils down in between each bite.
Right, so that you can time it, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that's bad for you that people don't realize is drinking during meals. And I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm saying anything. Yeah. You should not drink any liquid while you're eating. You should only drink right before and right after. If you drink during it, it actually can mess up your digestive tract. Some people. So, I'm one of those guys. Like, I guess that's weird though, because if you're doing cookies and milk, kind of throws it for a loop. Like, that's part of the allure of the cookie is the milk.
That's already two things that are screwing up your digestive tract anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Chips Ahoy, and then
like some cookies milk and cow milk.
Yeah,
guys, I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but I hate to interrupt. In the chat, Mark Saber, he has returned.
Oh,
there he is.
And he said, Paul George is a Sixer. Let's go. There he is.
Saber. Let's go. What up, Mark?
Where you been at, Mark?
All right, well, maybe I'll ask this question to Mark. For in the 4th of July spirit, would you rather team up with Superman or Captain America? Now, here's the thing with Superman. Superman has like godly undertones, religious wise. If you look at the story of Jesus and Superman, it's pretty much the same story. And then Captain America, obviously, is Captain America. But my thing is, what's his ultimate power besides the shield? I'm not really fully in on the Captain America. I might need to be educated on that.
So I'll say this: I'm never been a big superhero guy, superhero movie guy, and then Al actually got me into the MCU over COVID and told me to watch it. With that said, Captain America is a dork.
Yep.
Okay. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to.
So give me Superman. Actually, used to call myself Superman in the 7th grade. So I got some ties there a little bit as well. So I'm going Superman. I can't get on board the Captain America train. Captain America is a super soldier. He was injected, Chris.
But he was small though, right? Wasn't he a small like
he was? But then he got injected with
the scrawny.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a small little pipsqueak.
So both of these superheroes are corny. I think Superman, it's hard to make him cool when he's like you said, Chris, he's like God. Like, how do you make
you saying cool?
Well, how do you make a superhero like the good guy is supposed to have some sort of deficit? And I get that it's kryptonite, but like at the end of the day, like he's still just like conquers all. I'll say Superman, but Seltzer, you jogged my memory. I can't believe I forgot that you're when we first met. This is how you know our friendship has withstood the test of time, because when we first met and we exchanged email addresses, you told me your email was IamSuperman922@yahoo.com.
So that would be AOL, I think.
And I still ended up talking to you, man.
Well, but that was my backup. I gave you that?
Yeah, dude. How did I just know that?
I mean, I respect that, but A-Rod was the primary.
No, not back then. Was it A-Rod?
Yeah, A-Rod was always the primary. I Am Superman was the backup for sure.
I'll be honest. Yeah,
maybe I gave you the backup. I didn't want you to have the real deal.
That was the spam email back then.
You gave me the private line, dude. You gave me the bat line talking about superheroes.
I would say Superman, but I've always been a Batman guy. And I always will be.
Yeah,
but
he's way cooler. But he's not. So, in my freshman year of college, somebody wrote there. We had to all do a speech, and the speech was on that Superman is the best hero because Spider-Man and Batman are actually not real superheroes. Because Batman does not have superpowers, and Spider-Man's just a vigilante.
But see, I think that's why Batman's more of a badass, though, is because he doesn't have them, but he's brilliant, and he also is filthy rich. So he makes up these, like, he's able to still bang with these dudes. And really doesn't have any superhuman abilities.
Yeah.
But he's still, you know what I'm saying?
I agree. Saber, who do you got? You got Batman, Spider-Man, or Superman?
He said Superman.
No, but that was Superman or
Captain before the yeah. Yeah, we'll have to wait what he says for that one. But the irony in Seltzer calling Captain America a nerd when he had an email of I Am Superman is a whole nother conversation.
All right,
speaking of nerds, last but not least, would you rather spend July 4th with Richard Simmons or Ben Simmons?
Richard Simmons, dude.
Now here's the caveat. We don't know where Richard Simmons is. If you've seen this, Richard Simmons has only made one public tweet in 10 years. And it was about his actual demise, which was not, people thought that he was saying he was dying and he really wasn't, and he had to clarify it. Other than that, he has not been doing anything public in the public eye for 10 years. Maybe that adds to the allure of this, though.
I would love to give Ben Simmons a piece of my mind. I would love.
Yeah, but you got to spend the whole day with him to do it.
Yeah, maybe. I got a lot to get off my chest. I just like, I know who Richard Simmons is. I just Googled him to just get another visual of him. I couldn't do that for a full day.
You talk about flamboyant.
Yeah.
I'd eat it up, dude. I would love to spend the day with Richard Simmons. Are you kidding me? He's an icon.
I couldn't agree 100%.
There's almost 8 billion people on this planet. I'd rather spend the day with any of those 8 billion people than Ben Simmons.
He would whoop you in the shape so fast, dude. He would have you on your knees.
But well, hey now.
Do you know about the Richard Simmons documentary?
No, I've never watched the documentary.
No, well, they're making one, or they made one, and it all started because someone joked around and said that Pauly Shore, in his old age, has started to resemble Richard Simmons, and then he got cast to play Richard Simmons in this documentary.
All I know is something pissed off that dude because he ain't been around at all.
So there you go on the screen. Let's take a look right there. Look at that one.
Listen, if you make millions of dollars by making old fat people dance to oldies music, I'm in.
He would have been a TikTok sensation.
Oh,
still could be.
Yeah,
Richard, if you somehow are listening to this, the window is still open. All right, and Jared McCain, if you're listening to this, get in touch with Richard. Put it together.
Link up. But
that's what we need.
But stay away from Ben.
Yeah, don't go to Ben. He can't do that. So that's what I got for you guys. So
that was fun. I enjoyed that. I appreciate you putting that together for us. Before we wrap tonight, Chris, I got some more Sixers bad news. Another member of last year's team has left for the Clippers. Your man Mo Bamba has signed a 1-year deal with the Clippers. So Mo will know.
Really influenced by Nick Batum. They must have been boys.
Yeah, maybe something along those lines. But listen, more Sixers news to drop in the next couple of days, I would imagine, or at least coming weeks. We'll have that to talk about. And again, the Phillies big series with the Atlanta Braves this weekend. Happy 4th of July. Everybody be safe. Enjoy it. Happy birthday, America. And let's drop that beat.